Welcome back, guys. Week 13 of our season is in the books, and we have come away with yet another victory, and this time it made history. Before we get started, remember to like, comment, subscribe, turn those notifications down below, and let's get straight into talking about what happened in our last game. After this last clash, no one hates us more than Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin, as we are officially the team that brought an end to his historic streak of never having a losing season in the NFL, as we finished with a 42-39 score. But let's talk about the fight they gave us to make it a difficult one. Now, the start to this game went completely our way, as on the opening kickoff, it was our return man, Andre Bocelli, who took it all the way back for a massive kick return touchdown to break this game open, which would only be bested by a punt return touchdown late in the fourth, which would be just enough to lead us into the win. We then followed that up by taking advantage of Kenny Pickett in coverage. We talked a lot about his unproductivity, and his first throw of the day was picked off by our man, Jalen Thompson, and he would take it back 29 yards to set our offense up in a great position. And then, 3 plays later, our offense steps up to the plate, and it was our young tight end, Trey McBride, who rips down his only catch of the day, but it would be one of the biggest, as it puts us up by 2 scores just as we got going. Now, after this, the game settled down a bit, and that was due to the Pittsburgh offense putting it together. It all started with the aforementioned Kenny Pickett. We talked all about him before the game and how we wanted him to beat us, and he did his very best at that, because after that interception, he then threw for 300 yards and got 2 into the end zone as well. One of his most impressive throws has to be this one in which he hit his tight end Pat Freiermuth for a touchdown score, but Freiermuth was incredible in his own right as he continued to work himself open, and he brought in 9 receptions for just under 100 yards on the day. Pickett's other amazing playmakers also did some amazing work to help him out. The famous Pickett to Pickens connection worked well, getting some very nice completions and ended up getting the second-year receiver over the 85-yard mark. And the man opposite him in the formation, Deontay Johnson, had a massive day as well, as he brought in 4 for just under 70, and he even brought in their final touchdown on the day off a beautiful route to bring them back to a 1-score game late in the fourth. Their running attack was on fire as well, as it was their man Najee Harris who went for just under 100 as well, and he found himself in the end zone twice at some key moments to keep this game tight. Now, their offense was halted at some points, and that was due to some of our big contributors, like our best defensive player, the all-pro safety, Budda Baker. He finished with double-digit tackles, even getting in the backfield once to drop them behind the line. Of course, our breakout linebacker, Zaven Collins, was dominant, as he has been this entire year, getting double-digit tackles as well, and he even got to Pickett to drop him for a sack on their very first drive. But he wasn't the only one to get to the quarterback, as it was our defensive end, LJ Collier, who made the big play late in the half to make the third down stop. On the other side of the ball, the big story is how well the rookie Paris Johnson held up against TJ Watt. He only managed 3 tackles on the day, with 1 going for a loss, and it was nice to have him in check. But one of the better defensive performances for them was that of Alex Highsmith. He had 4 total tackles on the day, and he got home once for the sack on Kyler Murray. Speaking of Murray, he had another phenomenal stat line, as he has every game since he has come back. Through the air, he threw for 185 and 3 touchdowns, with his one big-time mistake being this awful interception late in the game, which he threw the way of Minkah Fitzpatrick, who proceeded to take it all the way for the pick 6 and allow the Steelers to take the lead in the fourth quarter. Back to our positives, he further contributed on the ground, as he took off 10 times for 80 yards, with his best play being this beautiful run where his receivers took the coverage away and he rolled out, going 28 yards for the touchdown. But this was just the start of our 3-headed ground game. The other 2 is the running back duo of Corey Clement and Tyson Williams. They themselves combined for 21 carries for just under 80 yards, and it was Clement who ended up getting the game-clinching first down run. And our Cardinal receivers had a big day as well, starting with our superstar, Hollywood Brown. He drew the defense's attention all day long, and he ended up bringing in 4 for 60, and he brought in an end zone grab as well. The last touchdown of the day went to the slot man, Rondale Moore, who benefited from the pure athletic ability of Murray to create the throwing window, and all he had to do was secure the ball. And before we end it off, we have to talk about the big play that led to this, and it came from the rookie, Michael Wilson. It was his only grab on the day, but he got himself wide open on this play action bomb, which he took for a massive 41 yards and get them into scoring range. And after the game, we got the big news that Kyler Murray was once again named NFC Offensive Player of the Week for his dynamic performance in Pittsburgh. But the big story of this week was that it was our bye week, and one of the big decisions was how we would handle it. We answered our weekly press conference, and one reporter said, "Coach, you have to be happy to be heading into your bye week in the first place. Any special plans for the week off?" To which we responded by saying, "We need to be firing on all cylinders coming out of the bye, so we're sticking to the grind. We don't want these guys rusty or sluggish because of time off, and we think keeping that routine will help." And with that, every player earned 500 XP for the bye week, but on the flip side, all of our guys will have -7 stamina for our next game. Now, the best part of this bye is that we give our injured players some time to rest up, and we have some big ones that could help with that. Our return man, Andre Bocelli, ended up tearing his abdomen late in our last game, and it looks like he'll miss a bit of time after our break. Our other guy out is, of course, our lead back, James Conner. He has been out for a bit of time dealing with a ruptured disc, but the docs have said after our return game following the bye, he should be all good to return to action. Now, with Bocelli out, we are going to give KJ Hamler the opportunity to step in as a returner for us this week. We really like what we see out of him, which is why we picked him up after the Broncos released him in the preseason, and let's see if he can make something happen with these chances. And our focus with him didn't stop there, because we recognized how well he has developed in practice, and with his contract expiring after the season, we wanted to see if we could work out a deal to extend him. So, we offered Hamler a 3-year deal worth $14.7 million, making $8.7 million salary, and he accepted, which means we have another foundation of our receiving corps for the future, along with him being able to get another big deal for his prime if he develops even further. It was then time for us to look over the news headlines for the week and some of the biggest stories with the return of some very notable players from injury, such as the Bengals getting back T. Higgins and the Saints getting back Alvin Kamara as both squads make their push for the playoffs. Some of our division mates even got good news as the Seahawks welcome back their number one receiver, DK Metcalf. He makes his return this week, and we are not excited to see him again later this year. It looks like the NFC South was responsible for one of the best defensive clashes of the season, as it was the Panthers who outlasted the Bucs to get the win on a mere 7-6 score. And in one of the key battles of the week to determine who would keep their hopes alive for an AFC wildcard spot, it was the Chargers who got the upper hand, taking the massive 42-31 win in New England. And excitement is at an all-time high around the league as the marquee matchup of the upcoming slate goes down in Dallas as top-ranked Cowboys welcome their division rival Eagles into their hometown. And in the spirit of looking forward, this seems like the perfect time to look once more at the current playoff picture. Over on the AFC side, the Ravens still find themselves with the top spot, holding on to that vital first-round bye. Due to the big win this past week, the Chargers find themselves slotted in the final wildcard spot, which would have them heading into Arrowhead to take on the Chiefs. The 3-6 matchup looks to be an AFC South rivalry, as the division-leading Jags are in position to welcome the Colts in a game that could truly go either way. And that division's representation is not done there, as it is the Titans who currently find themselves with that top wildcard position, which would send them down to Miami to take on Tua and company. Switching over to our NFC, we already spoke about the Cowboys keeping their dominant top spot, and the Eagles they look forward to taking on are currently slated to head over to Chicago to take on the Bears, who have the top record in the NFC North. A development in which no one could have expected has the Carolina Panthers currently holding the NFC South crown, and in this hypothetical would give them home field advantage against a tough Seahawks squad. And we finally get to our franchise, sat with the 2 seed, and we are currently in position to take on the Packers, who continue to make their playoff strides despite the departure of Aaron Rodgers. Our bye week also seems like a great time to look at various league leaders, and we'll start with the reigning MVP, who finds himself leading the league in passing yards with 3,344. The passing touchdown mark is led by Cincinnati's Joe Burrow, who has already tossed 32 on the campaign. The interception leader is being co-owned by 2 young quarterbacks in Atlanta's Desmond Ridder and the number 1 overall pick, Bryce Young. Your rushing yards leader is none other than King Henry, who has gone over the 1,200 mark this far, averaging over 100 a game. Josh Jacobs is the man to lead the league in running scores, but please note, Deshaun Watson is sitting at 10 rushing touchdowns, so they have gotten him out of the pocket a lot this year. In the receiving department, it looks like Dallas's CeeDee Lamb is the only man over 1,000 yards on the year. For touchdowns, we have another tie between San Francisco's Brandon Ayuk and Jacksonville's Evan Engram with 10 each. The tackle leader thus far has been Washington's Jamin Davis with 108, but just 3 behind him is our own Zaven Collins, who has been incredible for us this year. Cleveland's Dalvin Tomlinson leads in TFLs with 19. It looks like Von Miller has slowed down a bit, but he is still chasing the sack record with 18 on the year. Titans corner Sean Murphy-Bunting has the interception crown with 6. And our man Andre Bocelli is by far running away as leading return man, as no other team still wants to take them out. From a team standpoint, we are number 2 in the league in total offensive yardage, behind the 6th ranked passing yards and the 7th ranked rushing. We also average 3.5 more points a game than any other team in the league. On the other hand, we find ourselves bottom 10 in yards allowed on defense, where we have allowed the 5th most through the pass, but we are 3rd best against the run. We lead the league in sacks, tied for the lead in fumble recoveries, and tied for 2nd in interceptions. Now moving over to the yearly award races, Lamar Jackson leads the race for MVP. Our breakout season has us lined up for Coach of the Year. In our NFC, it looks like Jalen Hurts is leading the way for Offensive Player of the Year. The Defensive Player of the Year currently looks to be going to Micah Parsons, but our own Bryce Huff finds himself at 8. The current Offensive Rookie of the Year looks to be our own Michael Wilson out of Stanford. We have a very good shot at Defensive Rookie of the Year as well, as our own BJ Ojulari is currently leading the way, and also Garrett Williams backs him up at 2. Hurts is also looking to get the best QB. The best running back looks to be Ezekiel Elliott in his new home in Detroit. Best receiver right now is Lamb, but our own Hollywood Brown sneaks his way in at the number 10 spot. Best defensive lineman is led by Parsons, but our pair of Huff and Farrell find themselves at 5 and 6 respectfully. Best linebacker looks to be Carolina's Shaq Thompson, with our man Ojulari at number 5. Best DB is currently Bobby McCain. We have Jalen Thompson, Isaiah Simmons, and Xavier Rhodes. And the best kicker is Mason Crosby, with our own Matt Prater at number 5. We then advance the week and return to the news headlines to see what happened during our bye week, and it looks like Saquon Barkley dominated as he ran over 150 yards against the Packers to lead the Giants to a win. It looks like the Kansas City defense is starting to ramp up for the playoffs as they put down the Bills by sacking Josh Allen 6 times. The Detroit Lions continued to claw back to the playoffs as they completed the massive fourth quarter comeback against their division-leading Bears, and they still have a shot. It looks like the Seahawks edged out the 49ers in a tight 20-17 battle, and that could be massive for us because now is the time we can look forward to our upcoming matchup, which we take on those same San Francisco 49ers. We faced them once before this year, and we ended up dominating them 24-3 in a game that would be the start of our amazing win streak. But they would love nothing more than to be the ones to end it. Now, as we have already analyzed this roster earlier this season, we can go straight into the game plan for this game. On defense, our focus is going to be to attempt to shut down one of the most dynamic players in the NFL, Christian McCaffrey. So we will be defending the inside run. Switching to the offensive side, we know how amazing this Niner defense is, and they really have no weaknesses to attack. So we decided to just go with what we do best, which is throwing it to the middle portion of the field. It was then the time for us to set our goals for this upcoming game. First, we want to keep it simple. We want to win the turnover battle. We know how good this team can be, and if they decide to show up this time, we have to limit our mistakes. Next, we want to get 300 plus offensive yards. Their offense has too much talent to get held to a mere 3 points again. So that means our offense has to find a way to keep up. After that, we want to allow 20 points or less. If by some miracle we display the defensive masterclass we did the last time we faced off, it will increase our chances of victory drastically. And lastly, we want to get an interception. The team's only big question mark is Brock Purdy at quarterback. We bullied him in our last clash, and if we can do that again, forcing him to turn the ball over, we might be able to find the W at the end of this. We then went through our training for the week, and it looks like we did not escape unscathed as our defensive tackle Lecky Fotu suffered an ACL sprain and he will be missing this big-time match. But on a more positive note, we did get some key growth from some of our best players, starting with our main receiving threat, Hollywood Brown. He has continued to improve and be the reliable set of hands to keep this offense moving in the clutch, and this week he improves in his agility, awareness, catching traffic, deep route running, jumping, and release. Then, we switch to the defensive side as we have Bryce Huff. He was an amazing trade pickup as he had his best season of his career, and he continued his development today with the improvement in his block shedding and tackling. And lastly, we move to our number one corner, Marco Wilson. He's a guy who we don't hear a ton of week after week as he tends to lock down his man to not even warrant targets, but today he improved in his man coverage, press, and tackling. And with that, we have covered everything we needed to for this news episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, remember to like, comment, subscribe, turn those notifications down below, and I can't wait to see you all next time as we return home to take on our division rival Miners.